Hi everyone, this is AW Tech Guy here. Bringing in a review of the ActiveVolts browser version 3.6. Can't you believe it? It's 3.6. Wow. We are at version 6 point something right now. 6 point not, I would just say. And in version 6, of course, there's a lot of features, but today we're not going to talk about that version. We're going to talk about this ancient version. And yeah, what does 3.6 have to offer? Well, 3.6 itself is not that different when it comes to the some of the features being missing, of course, but when we're going to be taking a look at the graphics, well, the beautiful thing about 3.6, it offers you support for ENB, which, as you can see, works. Reflection doesn't work though, which is of course the major thing about ENB. So reflection is great to have. The engine is similar to the GTA 3 and the San Andreas engine. The major difference is that the object types being used in those games do offer you the ability to do reflection, which the RWX or RenderMan script that this engine that ActiveVolts uses doesn't. Big major difference, I guess. If you would have the ability to render those objects in this same engine, most likely the reflection would work on those objects. It doesn't at the moment, and that's just a giant limitation. They've tried to address this in the engine. There's no need to do that. There really is. It really is something that has to do with the object type in this case. But yeah. So we'll just be taking a peek at ActiveVolts 3.6 and its features. So over here in ActiveVolts 3.6, this is just the gate wheel that's been built. Nice circle of fire logos everywhere. It's very pretty. The options in 3.6 are very similar still to 6 point not. You have your follow and your exit right there. Teleport options are still the same: back, forward, to, home, make this my home. Remember, all those options still exist, so you can just type in, here I am, haha, right? And you can just go here. You can go to your teleport options, and you can just go there. Let's just go to teleport options. Let's just go to right there. See, so teleport options are still very similar to 6 point not. Your options for looking up and down and around yourself, I would always tell people just to use the end home, page up, and of course star and the / key on your numpad. The reason for that is because it's easier, right? So you can just enter those. They're quick, they're fast, there's no fuzz. Yeah, just use those keys on your keyboard. Don't use those options there. They are quite pointless. Yeah, so that's there you go. The options or settings are still very similar to 6.0 as well. So here's your settings menu, your citizens configurations menu, and your binding controls. Now your binding controls, if you've ever used ActiveVolts before, you'll recognize this immediately. So instead of having a nice fancy transparent window, this is still the same, but just not in a fancy window, right? Which is what you now get with 6.0. You have a transparent toolbar. It doesn't exist in 3.6. This is 2006 right here, so you just have to bear with it. Yeah, so there you go. Your settings menu is still very similar as well, I guess. You have your performance options, your disk usage, your general, downloads, your video options, your web, advanced, chat, privacy. Under the video options, DirectX and the hardware TL support should always be enabled when you have a video card. When you have an older video card, OpenGL might be better for you. But yeah, I'm not here to talk about Voodoo cards or anything like that right now. Software render is an option if you have a poor machine that does not have a video card. Very sad, because software render is very, very bad. If you use software render, you'll see object problems coming up everywhere. It's not a very pretty sight. Don't use software render. Just don't. Alright. Anyway, privacy options for if you are a citizen. This is very handy. Your your performance options, disk usage, you might want to put a limit in if you're going to visit every world in ActiveVault, because you don't want to have 9,000 gigabytes worth of stuff on your hard drive. It's just a general tip there. You want to mute all the audio when you're in the background. This is handy when you minimize your window. Precise movement, it will make you look like a stick when you're flying or when you're actually moving. Yeah, there's some other options for the world parent options. If you do have kids, you might want to limit that to PG. You can put a password in there and protect them from entering worlds that are not suitable for them. My apologies on that one. Where were we before we were so rudely interrupted? Alright, let's go ahead and put this down. Let's go ahead and take a look at these settings again. Alright, so yeah, right here, this is your parental controls, like I said. Now, PG-13, if you have teens, that would be a good way to make sure that they don't go to worlds above that rating. So you want to put a password in there, you can do that. There's parental control on ActiveVault. It's been there for a little while. I believe the parent options existed all the way at the introduction at 2.0. So ActiveVault 2.0 is the real first version, right? Before that it was Alpha Worlds, and it was basically a dev thing only. And it didn't have world as much more like regions, but if you want me to do an old version, we can do that. We can go all the way back to 2.0 or 2.2, because those are the major versions, I guess. And if you want me to do a review on those, we can do that, but you'll just have to tell me. Just leave a comment down below. Alright. Those are your settings options. Let's go ahead and take a look at ActiveVault 3.6 as it is. There's no shadow support, so all of this stuff is fake trickery. So, as you can tell, it looks like there's real shadows in there. There's definitely not. So don't be fooled. There's no shadows. So this option right there, where you see these weird shadows being formed, that's just trickery. Trust me, I built it, so it's completely fake. Let's go ahead and take a look at the water back in 3.6 and below version 5.2 dev. 5.2 dev introduced shader water, which basically got introduced mainstream at version 6.0 and its major release. Shader water gives you that water that you get in modern games. Before that, it's basically water that's similar to older games such as GTA 3 and then San Andreas. I keep going back to those games because the renderware engine holds very similarly through the way it renders things, I guess. So let's just go ahead and take a look. This is water. This is basically the best water texture you'll ever find for this type of water. Yeah, it's pretty high resolution, but for back in the day it looked pretty good. Let's go ahead and show you the build features. Just find a nice little quiet place to explain building in 3.6. 6.0 has a lot more features. These features were basically added to ActiveVault over time. So for instance, particles, zones, all these things, they were added in version 4.0, 4.1. The dev basically was Stagecoach Islands for that, which is in a universe. If you have a Beverly Hills postcode, it's free for you to join, so there you go. Let's go ahead and select an object. Now right now I have pressed the insert button on the keyboard when I selected it. That's the easiest way to do, just to use these shortcuts, not to use the icons. In the icons, you can use the icons, no problem. Look, you can tell it's moving. Left, right, up, down, da, 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 da. Problematic, it's very slow. As you can imagine, if you use the key, it's it's way faster. So I would recommend learning the page up, page down, end, home, insert, delete. These buttons are better to use. Again, \, star. These options are are there not just to zoom in and zoom out when you're in third person camera. These options are there for building as well to do the third axis. So yeah, so that's your third axis. Yeah, I just changed the object just real quick. If you want to use a tree or anything else like that, again, no problem, just type in tree. Go ahead and put a texture on because that will just look silly. Yeah, so there's your tree. Your tree. Alright, let's just go ahead and there's no mask when it comes to the matte FX. That option does not exist. If you are in 6.0 and you do want to know, all the options that you do have, just go to Ultralinks. I'll put a link in the description below. The Ultralinks website is a very, very good website to go ahead and learn all the different tricks you can do. Because you have different commands. For instance, I could say rotate, and rotate at a speed of 4. So it's, yeah, you will learn a lot of stuff just by going to that website. If you're in older versions like LaVillage or that's also 3.6, just like this server is, then you can just press F1 on your keyboard. It should give you the options, and it will take you back in time to 2006. Yay! So there you go. Yeah, these are all the options. Yeah, that's ActiveWorld 3.6. There's not much to it. You do have clouds and skyboxes and prettiness, I guess. There's your world, I guess, and the moon. And yeah, that is, I guess, pretty neat. If you want me to show you an older version, I can, of course, if you request it to. So, like I said, version 2.0, 2.2 with HyperX, Intel SPAD technology being introduced. Those versions, we can do them. It's not an issue. Yeah, we can do a review of those versions. Well, I'm gonna probably do version 6 after this, because version 6 does introduce a whole bunch of new features to the to ActiveWorld. Which, if you're going to go to ActiveWorlds.com, it's not going to give you all the differences in these things, because you have to imagine each world was built in a different stage of development. So some people bought a world, for instance, a lifetime world even, and they would build these worlds in version 3.3 or 3.4 or 3.6. So some of these worlds, they might look relatively nice, similar to maybe even this, but it'll probably be version 4.1 or higher than that. So yeah, if you do see nice looking worlds, it's probably going to be a relatively new build that they've used to build that world. So yeah, there you go. That's ActiveWorlds. Is there any version I particularly like? I think my favorite build so far would be 3.6, to be honest. Speed, it's nice. Flexibility allows you ENB. The newest version of ActiveWorlds does not. It doesn't allow any hooking of any kind. It's pretty well protected against that sort of thing. So there's no way to introduce an ENB whatsoever in the newest version. It's probably due to the security, like I said. Yeah, like I said, these are the options. If you want to change these icons, you can as well. Let's just go ahead and change the settings for your toolbar. The option does exist under the toolbar options. Let me go ahead and see where that was. Toolbar options, where are you? There we go. Okay, so settings, chat. Oh, there we go. So when you click this to, as you can tell, click this to default, it will change it to the default options. If you do want to have a flashback and you're in LaVillage, if you change this to classic, this is how it looked ever since 2.2, basically. So all these icons are very similar to what it used to look like. The world looks a little bit nicer than it does in the oldest version, I guess. But for everything else, the icons are very, very similar. I believe this icon right there is actually the original icon, not the icon that it's supposed to be, but oh well, that's a bit weird, but there you go. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's old, it's still nice, it's really fast versus the performance, but then again, Like I said, it's older though, so there's not a lot of stuff that's happening. There's no zones, no particles, no processor intensive stuff like, for instance, shadow casting by avatars. There's no real-time lighting, but it doesn't exist either in ActiveWorld, I guess, except for terrain. There is no slope sliding, no physics. What else? No movers. No custom avatar. Yeah, so that's basically 3.6 in a nutshell. Next week we'll probably be taking a look at version 6.1 and higher. I imagine we're at 6.1 by now, maybe even 6.2. You never know. If you do have a request, you want to, for instance, see an older version, just leave me a comment below. We'll take a look at it and see what we can do. I will not be able to show you version 1, and that's basically because version 1 was never really released. I have version 1.2 and version 1.4, version 1.8, because those versions were circulated. That's basically the bottom line, right? Those versions were circulated. They were even put on CDs and sold in stores. So you can find those versions on maybe ancient Chinese servers from back in the day. But you will not be able to find anything older than that. And you're going back to 1990, what was it? 1996, 1995, before 2.0 basically. So, yeah. And again, like I said, worlds are regions, and it's just slightly differently. It works slightly different. So it's, yeah, you only have size and avatar as well. So there's a few limitations, I guess. What we're gonna do is we're gonna wrap this up. If there's, like I said, any questions, just let me know. If you enjoyed it, subscribe. If you want to know more, comment, or just give me a message. And yeah, thanks for watching.